The nights. The endless nights when silence was the only answer. When the weight of unspoken confessions pressed down, crushing the air from my lungs. Is this what it feels like to be forgotten? To whisper prayers into a void, only to hear the echo of your own breaking heart? This is what I'm living. Every solitary breath, a testament to a faith that feels fragmented, shattered, and I just can't walk away until I know how this ends. It began, as most profound sorrows do, not with a roar, but with a whisper of inadequacy, of being too broken, too flawed for even a flicker of divine attention. I remember the weight of the rain on my window pane, mirroring the silent storm within. Each drop a tiny hammer, tapping against the fragile glass of my soul, threatening to shatter it completely. The world outside moved on, a vibrant tapestry of lives lived, joys experienced, prayers answered. But inside, my world was a monochrome landscape, painted in shades of gray and the ever-present shadow of doubt. There was a time not so long ago when my faith felt like an anchor, holding me steady against the fiercest tides. I believed in promises etched in ancient texts, in a God who heard every cry, saw every tear. But then, the storms came, not external tempests that ravaged the landscape, but an internal maelstrom that tore at the very fabric of my being. It was a slow, insidious erosion, like water wearing down stone, until the solid ground beneath me felt like shifting sand. I found myself staring at the ceiling in the dead of night, the kind of stillness that screams louder than any thunderclap. My mind replayed the moments, the memories that pierced deeper than any physical wound, the betrayal that felt like a knife twisting in my gut, leaving an open, festering wound, the words left unsaid, the apologies never offered, the hope that withered and died on the vine, each memory a ghost, haunting the quiet chambers of my heart. I tried to pray, to reach out, but my words felt hollow, echoing back at me, devoid of any power. It was as if a thick veil had descended between me and the divine, muffling my cries, rendering them unheard. The pain of abandonment was a constant companion, a silent observer of my unraveling. Not just the abandonment by those I had trusted, but the far more terrifying thought, has God left me too? Why isn't he speaking? This question, a venomous serpent, coiled around my heart, squeezing the life out of any lingering hope. I would cling to verses that once brought comfort, like a drowning person clutching at a fragile reed. I will never leave you, nor forsake you. The words were there, in black and white, but they felt like a cruel mockery. How could he not leave me when his presence felt so utterly absent? I saw others, their faces alight with an inner peace, their testimonies flowing like rivers of living water. And I would wonder, what was wrong with me? Was my faith not strong enough? Was my sin too great? Did I simply not deserve the solace they so readily found? The very act of praying, which once brought me closer to the sacred, now felt like a desperate plea into an empty sky. I would pour out my heart, confessing every fear, every doubt, every hidden sin, hoping that perhaps, if I laid myself bare enough, he would finally break his silence. But the silence persisted, a deafening testament to my perceived unworthiness. There were moments, fleeting glimpses, when a fragile hope would surface, a memory of a kind word spoken by a stranger, a ray of sunshine breaking through the clouds, a melody that resonated with a forgotten tenderness. But these moments were quickly swallowed by the overwhelming tide of despair. It was like trying to fill a bottomless well with a thimble of water. The effort was futile, the outcome inevitable. I remembered a story, a biblical narrative, of a prophet who felt utterly alone, crying out to God in the wilderness. And I thought, surely God heard him. Surely he responded. But what if my wilderness was different? What if my cries were simply lost in the vast expanse of the cosmos, too faint to reach the ears of an all-powerful God? This was the unsettling realization, the chilling thought that began to take root in the desolate garden of my soul. The pain, it wasn't a sudden sharp stab, but a dull, persistent ache that permeated every fiber of my being. It was the kind of pain that whispers to you in the dead of night, telling you you're alone, that you're unlovable, that your struggles are insignificant. It was the sound of my own internal struggles, a cacophony of doubt and fear echoing in the chambers of my mind. Yet even amidst this darkness, there was a faint, almost imperceptible whisper, a tiny flicker of light at the edge of my vision, a whisper that perhaps, just perhaps, this wasn't the end of the story. A whisper of a truth yet to be revealed, a solace yet to be found. It was a fragile thread, barely visible, but I clung to it desperately, hoping it would lead me somewhere, anywhere, beyond this suffocating darkness. The whispering hope, that fleeting shimmer, it was swallowed by the encroaching shadows. My faith, once a steadfast fortress, began to crumble, stone by agonizing stone. Each unanswered prayer, each seemingly unfulfilled promise chipped away at the foundation, leaving me exposed, vulnerable. The very air I breathed felt heavy, laden with the unspoken questions that haunted my every waking moment, and even dared to infiltrate my restless sleep. I screamed, but the heavens remained silent. It wasn't a poetic lament. It was a desperate, guttural cry torn from the depths of a soul in agony. I had poured out my anguish, my confusion, my sheer exhaustion, and all I received in return was an echoing void. The emptiness became a living entity, a vast, consuming chasm within my soul. It wasn't just the absence of joy or peace or even a sense of purpose. It was the profound, aching void where God's presence once resided, or so I believed. He felt distant, an unreachable deity on a throne too high for my pleas to ever ascend. I would look at the clear blue sky, searching for a sign, a whisper, anything that would confirm his existence, his attention. But there was nothing. Just the indifferent expanse, reflecting my own desolate landscape back at me. The promises, oh, the promises that once sustained me, they felt like cruel illusions, mocking me with their unfulfilled grandeur. He will never leave you, nor forsake you. He works all things for the good of those who love him. These words, once a balm to my weary soul, now felt like open wounds, each repetition a fresh sting. My mind would conjure scenarios, elaborate explanations for why he would allow such suffering, such prolonged silence. Was I being punished? Was this some divine test I was failing spectacularly? The answers eluded me, leaving me adrift in a sea of tormenting speculation. The loneliness was so strong that I thought, maybe God got tired of me. This thought, insidious and terrifying, burrowed deep into my consciousness, taking root and flourishing in the fertile ground of my despair. It was a stark, brutal realization that perhaps my constant pleas, my endless tears, had exhausted even the infinite patience of God. Perhaps I was a burden, a wearisome child whose cries had become an annoyance rather than a heartfelt supplication. The weight of this possibility was crushing, far heavier than any physical burden I had ever carried. I would pick up my Bible, the pages dog-eared and tear-stained from countless nights of desperate searching. I'd read passages about God's unfailing love, his unwavering faithfulness, his attentive ear to the cries of the righteous. The Bible said he hears, so why did it feel like he was hiding? This was the paradox that tormented me, the unresolvable conflict between what I read and what I experienced. My mind raced, trying to reconcile the two, trying to force them into a coherent narrative. But they clashed, violently. leaving me in a state of spiritual dissonance. The battle raged within, a silent war waged on the battlefield of my soul. Doubt, armed with the sharp edges of unanswered questions, attacked the dwindling reserves of my faith. Fear, a relentless assailant, whispered temptations of despair and resignation. I felt utterly alone in this fight, without a champion, without a guide. Every step I took felt like walking through quicksand, each effort to move forward pulling me deeper into the mire. My breath caught in my throat, a silent gasp of anguish that went unheard by human ears, and seemingly by divine ones as well. 2. Emotional raw nerve within me was exposed, throbbing with every beat of my aching heart. I was forced to confront the darkest corners of my own humanity, the depths of my vulnerability, the limits of my endurance. It was a crucible, a refining fire, but one that felt designed to consume rather than purify. The questions multiplied, each one sharper than the last, piercing through the thin veil of my remaining hope. Was there a purpose to this suffering? Was there a lesson to be learned in this profound silence? Or was it simply the arbitrary cruelty of a universe that cared little for the plight of a single struggling soul? And yet, even in the deepest recesses of this darkness, something stirred. A faint pulse, a barely perceptible flicker of light, not external, but from within. It was the memory of a distant echo, a word whispered in my youth, a promise made long ago that refused to be entirely extinguished. It was a fragile, almost imperceptible shift, like the turning of a key in a rusted lock, hinting at a door that might, just might, be about to open, ever so slightly. It was not a thunderclap, not a blinding flash of light. There was no miraculous intervention that shattered the silence with a dramatic display of divine power. Instead, it was subtle, like the gentle unfolding of a dewdrop on a morning leaf, so slow, so quiet, that you might miss it if you weren't looking with the eyes of your soul. It began, not with an answer, but with a different kind of silence. Not the empty, desolate void that had swallowed my cries, but a quiet that felt pregnant, filled with an unseen potential. Sometimes the silence of God is the sound of something being healed in us. The thought wasn't a voice, but an impression, a soft whisper brushed across the landscape of my weary mind. It was in the quiet moments, the stolen breaths between the agonizing thoughts, that I began to perceive it. A subtle shift in the atmosphere around me. It wasn't a radical change, not a sudden influx of joy or an immediate lifting of the burdens. No. It was more like the subtle change in light as dawn approaches, still dark, but with a promise of the sun, hidden just beyond the horizon. The profound silence, which had once been a source of torment, began to transform. It became a space, a sacred canvas upon which something new was being painted, unseen by the physical eye, but felt deeply by the heart. A verse, one I had read countless times, suddenly emerged in my mind, not as a command, but as a gentle embrace. Be still and know that I am God. It wasn't a revelation, but a re-revelation. The words resonated, not with intellectual understanding, but with a profound visceral calm. It was as if the very letters on the page had shifted, their meaning imbued with a quiet power that settled the tumultuous storm within me. The stillness that followed wasn't an absence of noise, but a presence of peace, a quiet hum beneath the surface of my consciousness. I began to remember things, not grand pronouncements or earth-shattering miracles, but the small, often overlooked moments where God's care had been undeniably present. The unexpected phone call from a friend just when despair was about to consume me. The strength to take another step when my legs felt like lead. The single perfect flower blooming defiantly in a barren patch of ground. a silent testament to life's persistent refusal to surrender. These weren't overt signs, but subtle cues, like breadcrumbs, scattered along a path I had been too blind to see. Each tiny memory, once dismissed as coincidence, now resonated with the undeniable echo of divine attention. It was in my worst moment that he drew near, without saying a word. This was the profound realization that began to dawn on me. He hadn't broken the silence with a shout, but had entered it, a silent companion in my deepest despair. His presence wasn't announced by trumpets, but by the subtle, almost imperceptible softening of the sharp edges of my pain. It was like a gentle hand placed on my shoulder, not to lift the burden, but to share its weight. It was the whisper of solace in the very heart of my suffering, a quiet comfort that transcended words. The understanding wasn't a sudden epiphany, but a gradual unfolding, like a scroll revealing its hidden wisdom, page by page. I started to see his care woven into the intricate tapestry of my everyday life, the resilience that emerged from seemingly insurmountable challenges, the unexpected wisdom gained through bitter experiences, the profound empathy that blossomed from my own deep wounds, allowing me to connect with the suffering of others in a way I never could before. It was as if the very process of breaking had allowed the light to filter through the cracks, revealing a hidden beauty I had never known existed. My perspective began to shift, ever so slightly, like the turning of a kaleidoscope. The darkness didn't disappear, but it no longer felt absolute. The silence wasn't empty, but filled with a new kind of communication, a language beyond words. It was the language of presence, of enduring love, of an unwavering commitment. That didn't require grand gestures, but manifested in the quiet, persistent care for the details of my life. It was a subtle yet profound, spiritual awakening, not to a new God, but to a God I had always known, yet truly seen for the very first time. This was it, the turning point. Not a dramatic shift, but a profound internal reorientation. It wasn't about finally hearing a clear answer, but about understanding that the silence itself was a form of communication, a sacred language I was only just beginning to comprehend. The silence wasn't absence, it was an active, deliberate presence. His silence was care, a breathtaking, humbling revelation. It was the care of a surgeon, quiet and precise, working on a wound too deep for words, too delicate for noise. High, desert, the barren landscape of my despair, was not a place of abandonment, but a place of profound encounter. It was there, stripped bare of all my illusions and expectations, that I finally met him in a way I never had before. Not in the mountaintop experiences, not in the triumphant answers to prayer, but in the desolate valley, where my soul was most exposed, most vulnerable. The absence, the crushing feeling of being alone, was, in truth, protection. Protection from what? From my own limited understanding, from my need for instant gratification, from the superficial answers that would have prevented the deeper work of healing from taking place. He was protecting me from anything that would hinder the profound transformation. He was meticulously orchestrating within me. I understood then, with a clarity that brought tears to my eyes, that his quietness was not indifference, but intimacy. It was a love so deep, so profound, that it didn't need words to express itself. It manifested in the subtle shifts of my heart, the gradual softening of my hardened edges, the gentle unfolding of a peace I thought I had lost forever. It was the quiet miracle of internal renewal, a testament to a love that never gives up. Even when we have given up on ourselves, the pain didn't vanish, but its nature changed. It became a sacred scar, a reminder of the journey, a testament to the enduring power of grace. The tears still flowed, but now they were tears of understanding, of release, of a profound gratitude for a love that had never wavered, even when I was too blind to see it. It was a redemption not heralded by trumpets, but by the quiet whisper of a soul finding its way home. Oh God, my God, forgive me. Forgive my doubts, my impatience, my relentless searching for answers when your presence was there all along, woven into the very fabric of my pain. I confess it now, in the midst of these lingering aches, this persistent vulnerability, even in the hurting, I believe. I believe in your unseen hand, your silent wisdom, your unwavering love that held me, even when I felt myself slipping into the void. Jesus, don't let go of my hand. Never let go, because it was in the silence, in the depths of what I perceived as your absence, that I found you most profoundly. It was there, when everything else had faded, that you became my everything. You were the quiet strength that sustained me, the unseen presence that guided me, the gentle whisper that healed the deepest wounds of my soul. I cried out for a voice, for a sign, for a clear path. But you gave me something far more profound. You gave me yourself, in the most intimate, unadorned way. You were the stillness that calmed my raging storm. You were the silent comfort that embraced my brokenness. You were the quiet fire that refined my faith, making it stronger, more resilient, more real than ever before. And now I see it. I feel it. The peace that transcends understanding, the hope that flickers even in the shadow, the love that endures beyond all circumstances. It wasn't about you changing your mind, but about you changing mine. It wasn't about you breaking your silence, but about me learning to listen to a different kind of sound. Lord, thank you for the desert. Thank you for the tears. Thank you for the silence, because it was there, in the unlikeliest of places, that I truly found you. It was there that you unlocked doors within me that I didn't even know were barred, doors to a deeper faith, a more profound love, a more authentic relationship with you. If God is silent, perhaps it's because he's healing something words cannot reach. If this message, if this journey of silence and discovery spoke to the deepest parts of your soul, if you felt that raw recognition, that painful identification, then I invite you to share a piece of your heart with us. In the comments below, let us know you were here, that you heard this whisper. Comment, God, find me in this silence. Or perhaps, if your faith is holding on by a thread just like mine was, write, even though it hurts, I believe. Or if you simply need his constant presence, just say, Jesus, don't let go of my hand. Your words are a testament, a prayer, a shared journey. And if this message was a breath of life to your weary spirit, if it resonated with the deepest longing of your heart, then I humbly ask you to subscribe to the Faith Whisper channel. Each new video we release is crafted to be more than just content. It's meant to be a whisper from heaven, a potential answer your soul has been desperately waiting for. Join our community and let us walk this path of faith and healing together. And finally, if you know someone who is praying in silence right now, someone who feels unseen, unheard, and profoundly alone, please send them this video. It might be the very breath of life, the profound whisper of hope that they desperately need to hear in their own wilderness. Share this message and let the quiet power of God's love reach another aching heart.